This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
There I am. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Our second Sunday in the month of January in the new year of 2023. Lots to talk about today. Welcome everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. We're right here live on TGI Sports Talk's Facebook page and YouTube's obviously. We're on Northeast Streaming Sports, which we're happy to be with. And we're also simulcasting now with Let's Talk Sports as well on YouTube. So we're happy to be doing that. Going forward as well. So, guys, lots to talk about today. Well, Jim Biringer in about 9, maybe a little after 9 to talk some NHL hockey. We'll talk, obviously, a lot of things in the NFL, which will start with the whole Bills and Hamlin issue and the whole mess the league made out of this playoff situation. And we'll get into the college football playoff a little bit. And so I want to get into some Major League Baseball later as well. And certainly whatever topics you guys want to talk about, as always. I want to share this, and I'll share it later, just so you guys can see it. My favorite Christmas present that I don't want to put away, my little granddaughter in the new Christmas ornament that I had for the tree this year. So anyway. Oh, guys, who's here? Rick Sherlock's in this morning. Good morning. It was quite a changeover. I am fast. I had this show ready to go, Rick, and then all I got to do is hit live and start the music, and off we go. So I've gotten pretty good at that quick switch from Rick's referring to the fact that I spent the first half hour, or the last half hour, with Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat over on Northeast Streaming Sports and the Mac, Jack, and Jim show. Forget the exact title of the show on Sundays. I think it's The Coach, the Historian, and the Hall of Famer. Not sure if I'm exactly right, but I have a great time with those guys. And we started talking about it a little bit, and I'm going to start this morning with, and we'll circle back to this as needed to. Good morning, CA. CA still with a chance to win the pick'em today over the unknown S. Crawford, which we'll get into later. We'll talk probably this first segment. We'll talk about the incident Monday night, some of the reaction, good and bad after, and the NFL's response and the way I think they've screwed up this entire playoff scenario. It didn't need to be. Now, first of all, let's start with the fact that, what happened to DeMar Hamlin Monday night it looked tragic. It wasn't a good thing no matter how you look at it, obviously. In retrospect, he's recovering. He continued prayers that he makes a full recovery. Whether he plays in the NFL again or not is not really important, but, he could recover to the point where he could. And obviously a tragedy was averted by the first responders that were there and likely saved this young man's life. And thank God for that. And, the first thing I want to say is I don't think that anybody, depending, again, look at timing's everything, right? And I said at my vlog this week, I talked a lot about this as well. And we can get into some of the opinions about this. And I've got, to me, there's offshoots everywhere for this situation. It was possible because it was inevitable. In the immediacy of that moment, we're thinking about that young man and want the best for him, want him to survive. We're thinking about his family and what they're going through. It doesn't make you a horrible person to at some point go, oh my gosh, it's week 17. What does this do to does this game get played? What happens to the playoffs if it doesn't? I mean, it's a natural progression because that's going to continue, guys. We've all had tragedies in our lives, and our lives stop for the moment, but later on at some point we have to address what we're going to do going forward. In a situation like the NFL, was in, that was a more immediate need than maybe some other things that happened in life. And they didn't really address it immediately anyway. There were people that were asking questions, and I think you can do both. I didn't tweet out or post anything about that in the moments after it happened, or the, while we were waiting around to find out what was happening that game Monday night when it was obviously weren't going to play. Yeah, but I don't think it makes you a bad person. In a couple places, I mean, I'm seeing people getting ripped for not caring about the kid if they asked about the games. Why are they mutually exclusive? I can care and also wonder how it's going to affect the season going forward. It's human nature. So you're not a bad person if you cared about the games and cared about the kid. I could do two things. I can care about a lot of things all at the same time. I don't think I'm abnormal that way. This is an offshoot of this, by the way, and it's a little bit off topic, but I did get involved in one conversation on Facebook where a woman was ripping the NFL and ripping the players and ripping everybody, calling for prayers for Damar Hamlin because Tim Tebow was chased out of the NFL for Tebowing after touchdowns and doing his little prayer in the end zone, pointing to whatever he did. Tebowing. We all know what it is, right? And I said, that isn't reason. Listen, there was a backlash at the time. I get it. But that isn't the reason Tim Tebow isn't in the NFL or didn't stay in the NFL. Tim Tebow couldn't play quarterback. My gosh, people are they get wrapped up in everybody who's not playing in the NFL that they think should be or did something that was controversial. They think they're not in the NFL just because of that controversy. And it's such total nonsense. Like hell, the NFL's brought back guys who killed people or were involved in it, abused women, guns, you name it. You think they care? If Tim Tebow were a great quarterback, the controversy would have still been there, but he would have stayed in the league because he could play. Anyway, I'm off topic a little bit. So you had all that going on, and then the news got better pretty much every day, which really took the onus off of, wondering about what was going to happen with that game, and it had to be canceled. There was no way to play that game. We all get that. I'm not saying the NFL should have done anything with that game. Should have been canceled. My problem is, the big problem is, the Bengals totally get screwed in this whole thing because they get wrapped up in all of this. They do the right thing. Zach Taylor did the absolute right thing, that night and going forward. And then they get really shafted in the end because now they can win the division and win it by 2 games. They can't even play a home game against the Ravens next week if that's what happens. That's ridiculous. The whole the whole thing about the championship game, all that stuff didn't need to happen. We don't need to have this convoluted nonsense where if these 3 teams or a combination of these 3 teams get here, we've got to find a neutral field, which, by the way, Indianapolis has already said no. You didn't need to do any of that. You have a rule on the books that speaks to this, not in this specific type of near tragedy, but you have a rule that says if games get canceled, the order of finish is based off of winning percentage. And even if games aren't canceled, by the way, that's the way it's done. Because you've had ties for years in the NFL, and there have been years, if you go back and look historically, and I don't have any of them in front of me right now, but you'll see years where teams might have had 1 less loss or maybe more wins, but because of ties, and there used to be lots of ties back in the day, winning percentage won out. I wouldn't say lots of times, but times. So the NFL, as they're wont to do, screws this all up. Now, there was no perfect solution. I'm not saying the rule that was on the books was the perfect solution, but I agree with Zach Taylor and the management of the Bengals of like, why are you changing the rules in the middle of the season? You have a rule on the book for this. Winning percentage takes precedent over anything else. And you knew the NFL would screw this up. As soon as I started seeing things like they're going to add an 8th playoff team, also ridiculous. so other teams would benefit from this near tragedy again. I just don't understand. Maybe it's me. I don't understand. Thank God it didn't come to that, right? Lots of vitriol, though, about lots of things. The thing that gets me the most, and I wouldn't call it offended, I'm angry, that people would again, by association, just because I agree with people. Nobody really told me I didn't care about this kid. I'll get to your comment here in a second, CA. It makes me angry for somebody to tell me that if I ask about this, I don't care about the kid or his family or the near tragedy. It's just ridiculous. See, after the spectacle yesterday and will be today, wouldn't it have been better to push everything back? Now, here's my problem with pushing everything back. And there was a lot. This was one of the considerations, right? First of all, there's too many things already put into place, I think, for these playoffs, the dates going forward. And yes, unfortunately, TV, I'm sure, played a part in this. And they pay a lot of money, so they're going to get a say. But you take that out of the equation. If you had pushed everything back, so after this week, and I assume this is what you're talking about, CA, because this is what I kind of referred to the other day. If you moved everything back next week and had a standalone game, I think you and I talked about this during my vlog, or one of my shows Friday, and had a standalone game next week. You said Monday night, whatever. I think that'd be fine, whatever, if that's what you wanted to do. The problem is now you've also hurt the Bengals and the Bills, because then they go to the playoffs the next week, and the teams that they're going to play would have had a bye, would have had a week to get ready for them. And I don't think that would have been fair to those teams. Wouldn't have been fair to the fans who might have already been planning, well, I guess we don't know for sure where those games are, right? But to me, again, I think you penalize the Bills and Bengals by making them play all by themselves next week. And there was no way to play it in between. I mean, you're going to ask teams to play 3 games in 7 days, basically, if that were the case. So, again, and you talk about the integrity of the sport, there's a rule in place. Winning percentage takes precedent over everything, even if a game's canceled. This is why Zach Taylor's upset and the Bengals are upset, and I don't blame them. I'd be upset as well. Now, again, as we talk about all this, I want to be clear. Damar Hamlin's well-being was the number one factor. The NFL did everything right. And by the way, talking about the NFL and the way they screwed things up, don't tell me they weren't ready to restart that game Monday night, because they were. They were. The players were starting throwing. Part of it's a reflex action, and I'll give the NFL even the benefit of the doubt. Just as I wondered why the Bengal players were warming up, because they've seen hundreds of times guys down on the field and even get carted off, and dozens of times those have been serious injuries. And they probably didn't realize in a moment, and just, again, with all the chaos and confusion that was going on, they probably thought they were going to restart the game, and they should have said that. They should not have backed up Tuesday and said there was never a consideration of restarting that game. Because the truth of the matter is, right after the play happened and Damar collapses, they would have, likely not knowing what was going on, they would have been thinking, we'll be restarting once we figure out this situation. It's all a mess. As I told you several times, as you were tweeting some of those possibilities, or not tweeting, but messaging my group chat, some of these possibilities, Alan, that the NFL would find a way to screw it up. They screwed up something they didn't need to do anything with. You had a rule. Why do you have rules just to supersede them when you don't think it really fits the thing that you're working at? Someone was going to lose out in the end. Again, there was no four. And by the way, Kansas City has 14 wins and didn't beat either the Bengals or the Bills this season. Just an FYI. And the Bengals should not lose home game to the Ravens next week if they beat them if they're ahead by 2 games. Patriot win would give the Bengals a 2 seed. Is that accurate or not? I don't really know if that's accurate. I got to look at those numbers here. I don't think that's. I don't have my calculator to do the math, but they'd have 4. Oh, they both have 4 losses. Well, how would they win? Buffalo's got a better conference record, 8-3, 8-3. They'd both be 8-3. Their game head-to-head was, I don't know what the tiebreaker is for that then. Because their conference records would be the same. I guess maybe it comes down to common opponents, I guess. Probably at that point. And that's what would have lost them. Good. I'd be happy to play the Bengals in the first round because we were in position to beat them if our own mistakes didn't kill us again 2 weeks ago. So I'm very happy to have a rematch with the Bengals rather than Buffalo. And by the way, the Patriots beating Buffalo today is going to be one of the tougher tasks that's going to happen. And again, I said this all week long too, not because of any emotional lift the Bills might get. Just because of the situation in general, I would rather be playing any other team in the NFL than the Bills this week. And I would fully expect that before the game today, there will be some kind of video message to the fans from Damar Hamlin in the stadium. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. We'll see how that goes. That place will go nuts. Whole situation, well, this is true. Now, you know what, though, Rick? It is easier. You're certainly right. It is easier given the fact that he's recovering. And but I'm not kind of reacting with hindsight here. Again, the NFL still would have had to make decisions. I do believe they would have played. I think they would have made the same decisions. They had to play the games this weekend. They couldn't push them back. Again, pushing the weeks back would have really hurt. And I'm not sure why I'm the only one that seems to see this. It would hurt the Bills and the Bengals as much as help them because you'd have teams that would have bye weeks before the playoffs. So everybody would get a bye except the Bills and the Bengals. Well, now that helps them. Except maybe they are able to play out the games and get the home field and that type of thing. But again, you're right. Hindsight certainly makes this easier. Point differential. Well, that's not accurate either because the Bills have about a 70-point lead on the Bengals. So it's not point differential that'll be the one that makes the Bengals a 2 seed. So that's wrong. I got to believe it's common opponents, which I don't have right in front of me, and I'm not going to take the time to look for it right now. Somebody else can do that if they want. Bengals win and Bills loss. Again, I get that, Alan, but that would give them the same exact record. They'd both be 12-4 in that instance. So what's the tiebreaker? They'd be tied in conference. They didn't have a game. They played head-to-head. So it's got to be common opponents. It's not point differential because the Bills have it huge. And if it is point differential, then the Bills have the 2 seed. They screwed the AFC playoff picture. Both teams most affected a tragic event and paid Disney back for Monday Night Football with 2 yesterday on ESPN. That's had nothing to do with this tragedy. These games were already scheduled, CA. They couldn't have played this game. There's no way to ever play this game. They could have played it this week, but they didn't pay back Disney for the Monday night game being lost with these games yesterday. Those games are already scheduled. So, and that's because there is no Monday night game this week. And somewhere else, I think they lose a Monday night, possibly. That's why they got 2 games, 2 games yesterday. Had nothing to do with last Monday night's game. The Steelers are in the best spot. How are the Steelers in the best spot? Patriots are the best spot. Just win. Now, if you're just going to assume they're going to lose, I guess you can assume they're in the best spot. Because Steelers need two teams to lose. How is that in any way a better spot than a team that needs to win and get in? Or even Miami's. Steelers are in the third best spot here, Alan. You can't assume the Jets are going to beat Buffalo with Joe Flacco playing quarterback. I took the Jets today because Patriots can still get in, by the way, if they lose, and the Steelers and the Dolphins also lose, which, believe me, I don't want to get in that way. I don't want to be the first wild card with a losing record to get into the playoffs. So I got to disagree there. Yes, it's rough. I agree. The Patriots playing the Bills is rough, but you control your own destiny. The Steelers control nothing in their own destiny except they need to win and have two teams lose. That's not even close to controlling your own destiny. Patriots are in the best spot. Just win. That's it. Is it the easiest spot? No. Random comment. Well, the coin flip. That's nonsense, right, Anthony? Good morning to you, too, by the way, Anthony. Good to have you with us this morning. The Bengals, again, the Bengals get screwed here worse than anybody. I mean, for them to probably win, they'll probably win today and win the division by 2 games and have to have a coin flip to see where the game's going to get played. That's what it is, right? I was thinking it was a neutral field, but I think it's a coin flip now that I think about it. Hey, jeepers, come on. It's a good call, Anthony. If Zach Taylor is outraged, and again, further proof that no good deed goes unpunished. The Bengals could not have been more professional in the way they handled their part in this, which is just as, innocent observers because they happened to be on the field at the same time. They couldn't have handled it more professionally with more class than what they did, and they get it stuck to them worse than anybody. The Bengals would have strength of victory over. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? The schedule? You're talking about strength of schedule, Alan? Well, it won't even mean anything anyway. Unless Kansas City doesn't get to the championship game, it really won't mean anything. The 2 or the 3 seed in my mind probably doesn't mean anything, right? Except for who you play. I mean, the Bills would get the Patriots if they got the 2 seed, and the Bengals would get them if they do. Still got to play somebody, and you're going to play them at home. I guess it would be good for the Bengals now that I think about it, right? Because they would definitely get a home game against the Patriots. That's a good call. And the Ravens, I guess, would go to Buffalo in that scenario. I think. It's so messed up. It didn't have to be this messed up, NFL. All you had to do was say, we'll stand by the rules on the books. I don't know if that is accurate. Hold on. I hope that's right. Now, I hope I'm misspeaking that because there's so many scenarios spinning around my freaking head. It's nonsense. If the Ravens win Sunday, the Bengals are matched against Cincinnati. If Cincinnati wins, or the regular scheduling procedures will be used. All right, you're right there. My head was spinning when I read this stuff on Friday. Why do you make it so difficult? Well, all right, that's strength of schedule, so thank you. That makes sense. I think. Does anything make sense? Anthony, I would if Bills versus Bengals, where they play in Dallas or Lions. Who knows? Who knows where they'll play? You can't. You're probably not sending Buffalo to Detroit because their fans will just make the trip, right? And maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe they won't find a place to play. They'll find a place to play. Don't get me wrong. But Indianapolis has already said no, thank you. My apologies. Been busy and still catching up on new scheduling leaked TV hour. This playoff decision still was about adding revenue, apparently, from a crisis. And I don't really know. I get this. I get where the perception comes from, CA. And believe me, I'm not naive enough to think that the TV networks were not involved in the decision at all. Guarantee you they were. But they don't add any revenue. Actually, if they were going to add revenue, I'm assuming that they would have wanted the 8th team to get in because they'd have an extra game to broadcast. That would have been their best scenario. Otherwise, that's the same number of games being played. They don't increase revenue. Unless for some reason they can increase what they can. The revenue has already been brought in, right? I don't know how to explain this. They've got commercial time sold. They're not going to make more money because of more eyeballs or whatever. The only way they could have increased revenue is to add a game. And I got Jim in the waiting room here. I'll take a couple more comments, and we'll come back to this afterwards, but I want to get to Jim Biringer and some hockey chat here for just a little bit. The Bengals, Bills wouldn't disapprove, would have. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry, CA. This hurt the fans. It did hit the fans. I agree, Anthony. It hurts the fans. And by the way, the fans are always the last thing considered in these situations. So that's certainly not a surprise to see in this. I'll get one more in here, Alan, before I go to Jim, and we'll go back and we'll revisit the NFL when after we cover the NHL scene with Mr. Jim Biringer from FullPressHockey.com. Any matchup between either KC, Cincinnati, or Buffalo result in the neutral field? I know that part. That part's easy. Right. I heard that's not where, again, the confusion comes in. Again, all of these things, we shouldn't need to be sitting here explaining these. They could have used the rules on the books, and it's plain and simple, cut and dried, no problem. Not the NFL, though. We have to make it as hard as possible. Oh, God. Let's move on, guys, to a little. Let me put your banner up here before I forget Mr. Biringer. Bring in Mr. Jim Biringer from FullPressHockey.com, and let's talk sports. I think that's the best way to kind of introduce you now. I got kind of chastised, Jim. I didn't tell you because I've always promoted you as MadRadio.com. And when I shared your last appearance on my either this show or the College Football Huddle, I got chastised a little by somebody you know.
That's all right.
So anyway,
that's all right. People are jealous. It's okay. It's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. He just said, don't do that anymore. So he wasn't nice about it. So I didn't really realize that, that situation had changed. I didn't have any reason to think it had. So
it's all good. It's no worries. I'm just glad to be here on a Sunday talking hockey.
I want to promote the right places for you anyway, so that's fine.
If you want, give a shout out. Give a shout out to our friend Larry Frank. Frankly Speaking Sports. I was on with him. Did a spot with him on Friday down in Carolina, talking some Hurricanes hockey. So yeah, that was a good thing. NHL's back at it again after their holiday breaks, the new year, and I mean, what can you say? Boston Bruins are still the best team in the National Hockey League right now, and I don't see anything different.
It's very funny because I was looking as I was kind of reviewing some of your articles, as I like to do when you're coming on. I was looking for your last power ratings. I couldn't find any rankings. I couldn't find anything since December 22nd. Was that your last one?
That was the last one. Usually for the holiday, with the holiday break, it's just so hard because the teams don't play the same amount of games. Everybody comes back. Just like, all right, this week will be the new ones. New ones will come out. It'll be fresh. Boston will still be number one because they're the best team in the National Hockey League right now. I mean, look, up and down that lineup, Pasternak, Marchand, you have Patrice Bergeron. All those guys have been there forever now. Their perfection line, as they like to call it. Linus Ullmark, their goaltender, is now named to an all-star. And, I mean, just this team is so well-rounded. The fact that they moved out
yes, it did get. He had his Magnum PI shirt on this morning. Jack Hurst did.
There you go. But I it's funny because you look at what the Bruins are doing, and Omar's their all-star, and they just roll 4 lines. The fact that they got rid of Bruce Cassidy, that thing, and Cassidy's doing fine out in Vegas. You bring in Jim Montgomery, this team is just clicking. You bring back guys, they move pieces around, and it's like this team only has like 4 or so regulation losses. It's like wait, it's January what, and they're doing this. I mean, look, I know they want to bring the band back together to give one more run, but we'll see come playoffs. Sometimes not always the best team wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, do we have to give Tampa Bay the benefit of the doubt once we get there? You've got to knock them out in the East. I mean, obviously they're not the defending champions this year, but
yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, they're still the 3-time defending East champions. I mean, they know what it takes to get to the playoffs. They all know, save it to the playoffs. You got to get there. Be smart, just get there, and then from there, let's see if we can beat you, because that's when they usually turn their game on. Now we'll see. This year, Boston will probably have home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. Depends on who the matchups is going to really be to determine the Bruins, fate. But right now, as it stands, I mean, I don't really see anybody beating this team right now. I mean, again, it could change. Boston's playing well. Are they going to come back to earth? You would think. Numbers say they should, but you never know.
Carolina's still playing well. You mentioned them. Well, they got 3 losses in a row right now, but overall they've played pretty well early in the season, as you mentioned at the top.
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking what the Hurricanes have done. I mean, they went on that 11-game win streak. They had the 17-game point streak. They started to put wins together. They started off slow, but that team, they play the way their coach played. Rod Brind'Amour, who's a Hockey Hall of Famer, or should be in a Hall of Fame, I should say. But, they play that grinding style. They don't really make a lot of mistakes. 3-game losing streak right now. But Max Pacioretty has returned to the lineup. He's been out for most of the year because of Achilles injury. He came over in that trade in the offseason, didn't really see ice time. Now they're starting to get everybody back together, starting to get healthy. Peter Kochetkov, their goaltender, has really outshined Frederick Anderson and Antti Ranta. It's going to be interesting to see. This Metro division is so tight. I mean, you got Devils right behind them. You got the Rangers. Then you got Washington, the Islanders, Pittsburgh. I mean,
Rick puts a little point up about your Devils. They've leveled off a little bit, but they've
leveled off. But I mean, that's to be expected because they're such a young team. You're not gonna. Yeah. You didn't think I was gonna sustain. I mean, a lot of teams started off red hot and have come back to earth. I mean, you expected New Jersey to come back and hit a wall and go through some adversity and learning curve. I mean, they got a big win Saturday against the Rangers, down 3-1, winning in overtime. Get a home victory. They haven't had one in 8 games. You want to set the tone there before you go on the road for 5 games. And this young team is still learning how to win and learning what it takes to make the playoffs. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, each month gets harder and harder. Each segment of the season gets harder and harder, and teams are starting to figure out how to play against them. And now they have to make the adjustments to play right back and get those wins. And I think that's a big turn. If they can use yesterday's win as a turning point in their season, then I think they'll be fine.
Those are all great points. And one thing that seems to belie that a little bit, and maybe there's an explanation for it that I'm not thinking of, maybe just the scheduling itself. They're so much better on the road than they are at home. That's it's just an anomaly because of who they played on the road, or
sometimes teams have better road records than they do at home. I remember one year the Devils were like the best road team when they won the Stanley Cup, and they went up against the Dallas Stars, who had the best home record. So it's so weird. I think, as Lindy Ruff said yesterday, I think if we could take that 14-2-1 road record and get some wins at home, that would be ideal. Because you want to make that place tough to play, be for opposing teams. I mean, yesterday that the Devils rallied by using the crowd energy to come back. Once they got that second goal, you could hear it. The fans were into it. They tie the game. The place is electric. They're able to win it. Place goes nuts. That's what you want, and that's what the Devils need to feed off of it. But they have to give the fans a reason to cheer sometimes. Sometimes their starts are not the greatest, and they're behind the 8 ball early, and it's tough to rally. And I think, they did it yesterday. I think if they can get off to better starts, I think that's a key to their success. I mean, it seems it's funny. That's really all you talk about when it comes around any type of hockey is your start, and you need to be good and get. You may not have to score goals. Hey, you want to keep it 0-0, but do the little things right so pucks don't end up in the back of your net.
Yeah, and Anthony, I'll get to your comment here. It's about Vegas and the West, but I want to, before we leave the East, I want to comment. One thing that's kind of seems to have gotten under the radar was the improvement of the Sabres this year. They played some pretty good hockey in stretches. I happen to really kind of dive into it a little bit today because they're going to have a tribute for Damar Hamlin at the Sabres game today as well, which is certainly a classy thing to do in a different sport and the right thing to do. But I guess they'd gotten under my radar that I hadn't seen that they'd improved here as much as they had so far this year. What are your thoughts on the Sabres?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big year for Buffalo. I mean, there were a bunch of teams coming into this season. When you looked at it, you looked at Buffalo, you looked at Detroit, you looked at Ottawa, you looked at New Jersey, at teams making improvements in the offseason. Buffalo, they haven't been to the playoffs since 2000 something. I mean, Buffalo sports fans are some of the best. They want their Sabres to do good. They want the Bills to do good. Obviously the Pagulas own both. So, I mean, now the fact that they built this young team through the draft you have defenseman Rasmus Dahlin. They picked up Tage Thompson in a trade for Ryan O'Reilly. They were going to trade him. They didn't. Now he's signed to a new extension. They get Alex Tuck in the deal for Jack Eichel. Casey Middlestad's playing well. And that's all because you have a good head coach in Don Granato, and they're not changing coaches now every couple of years because things aren't working. They're sticking with the system. Owen Power, defenseman on the back end. They're getting good goaltending. They're getting goal scoring. Victor Olofsson, like I said, Tage Thompson is one of the best goal scorers in the league right now. And the Buffalo Sabres have really improved, and they're inching closer and closer to a playoff spot. And I think that's something you wanted to see if you're in Buffalo. I think they needed to take the next step this season to show, okay, we believe in this team, because how many times have we seen over the last several years, Buffalo starts out great. They have this great start, and then they go on this losing streak, and they can never rebound. But this year, it feels like it's different because Buffalo has shown they can rebound from those. They had a great start again. They went through some losing, but now they're kicking it back up and doing some winning again. And I love what this team brings. But I've always been a fan of head coach Don Granato. He just gets the most out of the young players. He understands where these players need to play and succeed, because a young guy like Casey Middlestad shouldn't have been on the fourth line. He needs to be playing with skilled players, and now you're seeing it. And they're just riding a wave right now. And I think their first game after what happened against when Damar Hamlin went down, with everything that happened in that Monday Night Football game, they were down. They went to travel to Washington. They had the shirts on. They played it for him. They, they're sending him the game puck, the whole thing. So they're definitely using, what happened in a different sport right now as a rallying point for them and for the city of Buffalo.
Excellent. And as we, I don't know what, let me get Carlos's comment up here just because.
It was the French connection.
Close enough, I guess. It's, somewhere out there in Europe, either Western or Eastern. We don't know which. Anthony had this up before, so as I move out west, I'll kind of put it up there. He just says, don't sleep on Vegas. I don't think you could ever sleep on Vegas.
No.
Out west, you got some interesting teams playing well right now. The Jets are playing well. The Kraken are playing well. Vegas is obviously leading the West, and it's a little bit more jumbled, I think, and closer than maybe the East, top to bottom, I guess. What are your thoughts on some of these teams out west that have you mentioned or haven't mentioned?
I mean, look, I've been really impressed with Vegas this year. I think everybody has been. Did anybody expect Logan Thompson to be this good? No, but he's going to the All-Star game, so he must be an All-Star. He must be that good. I mean, he showed signs last year of doing this. If Vegas could win some games, yeah, they probably would have made the playoffs, but they didn't. But Jack Eichel's back. He's healthy. He had another stint of being injured. But this team, looks good up and down the roster. You know, a lot of their old guys, their old misfit Golden Knights are performing well. Like forward Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith, those guys are really playing well right now. Defensively, Alex Pietrangelo is back. You know, Alec Martinez on the back end as well. You know, Vegas is a good team, but they have competition because there's still, you know, Bill Foley, the demands that he has with this team about winning. You know, it's tough in today's day and age, especially with the West so well in that division. You know, you got the LA Kings that are much better. Kevin Fiala gets a hat trick against Vegas last night, and the Kings win. I mean, the LA Kings are a good team. You got to watch out for them. Phoenix Copley, goaltender, comes in. They move what was Cal Peterson down. They bring him up. And now they've been rolling with Copley, and you know everybody's clicking with Arvidsson, with Victor Arvidsson. You have forward Anze Kopitar. The young kids like Arthur Kaliev are performing well for LA. So you know it's tough. And then obviously we forget to mention Seattle. I mean the Kraken are just in their second season right now, are playing lights out, much better than they did last year. Well balanced scoring. I mean, it seems like every night when I watch the Kraken and they score goals, it's one guy. It's not one guy. It's a team effort. You have against Ottawa, you had 7 different goal scorers. That's what it's been for the Kraken this year. It's not, you know, you have a bunch of guys bunched up with 10, 11 goals. No guy leading the league or leading the team with like 20 goals or something, but they're playing balanced hockey. Second year under Dave Hackstall, Ronnie Francis making the right moves. You know, who would have thought Martin Jones, goaltender, would have a seasons like he's having, considering what happened over the last couple of seasons for him. Philip Grubauer's rebounding like he did when he was the goaltender for Colorado. So I like what the Kraken are doing. And then in the Central, obviously Winnipeg, their resurgence behind goaltender Connor Hellenbuck, obviously the big guns of Blake Wheeler. On the forwards, you have Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, all those guys. And then Dallas, of course. How can we forget about the Dallas Stars? Those guys are just playing really well right now. I mean, Jason Robertson, their forward, signed a new, had that big goal streak along with Mitch Marner going back and forth. He cooled down and he come back. You got Rupe Hintz on that top line with Joe Pavelski. You know, everybody seems to be playing well. You know, as far as Vegas and Seattle goalie issues, I think everybody thought they had goalie issues coming into the season. I don't think they have goalie issues right now. Martin Jones, one of the best goalies in the league. I mean, look, considering, you know, what we think the league average should be, it's, you know, if you have average goaltending now, you can win games, and he's not giving up the bad goal anymore. So Seattle's playing well. Vegas, you know, Aiden Hill, is he going to be a good backup? Can they bring somebody else in? Again, not a lot of people can make a lot of moves. These teams can't make moves because the salary cap, but they didn't go up enough, you know. They got to maneuver, you know, LTIR and the money. And that's the biggest problem right now, is that teams that want to make moves can't because of the salary cap.
One team that, you know, I guess we should learn probably not to count out from some of their seasons in the past, but got some serious injury problems and hovering around 500, the Blues. Is their season in trouble here?
I mean, look, St. Louis is playing well right now. You know, considering this could be a future into what the Blues team could look like with forwards Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko potentially gone in the offseason. Both guys are free agents. They definitely want to re-sign O'Reilly. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Tarasenko. I think there might be a little bit too much baggage there. I know he still definitely wants out. But they signed those young forwards, Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, to those 8-year extensions in the offseason. Both players have stepped up in the absence of O'Reilly and Tarasenko. So this is a future of what the Blues are going to look like. And they've won a couple of games now with those guys out of the lineup. Let's see if they can, you know, keep the momentum going. I mean, another team I wouldn't be too concerned with, though time is becoming an issue, is the Colorado Avalanche, the defending Stanley Cup champions. They've had a lot of injuries. Obviously, you know, Nathan McKinnon went out. Gabriel Landeskog is still not back, and they haven't replaced Nazem Kadri, their second-line center, who last year was able to fill in for those guys, and the Avalanche started to roll. There's Cale Makar, defenseman's playing the way he can play. But they've had a lot of injuries, especially going and making a deep run last year, winning the Stanley Cup. Guys aren't fully healed, but they're finally starting to get healthy and starting to play better and like the team everybody expects them to be. So I wouldn't worry about Colorado right now. But there's definitely, from last year to this year, there's definitely more competitiveness around all the teams going for those wild card positions in both leagues, because last year around this time, maybe a little later on, we knew the 8 teams in the East and we knew nobody was catching them. So at least there's a playoff race going on right now in January.
Well, just to back up to the East for a second before we move on here, the CA had put this up, and I wanted to finish up the West before we zip back. He's talking about the Buffalo team and maybe not being ready quite this season and may sell before the deadline. I don't know if that'll be the case, but
I don't know if the Sabres would be sellers, to be honest. I mean, they're only a couple of points out of a playoff spot. Deadline's March 3rd. Like I said, a lot of teams that want to make moves, trying to make additions. Again, it's a salary cap. Sabres have salary cap space that they can use, but who are they going to give up? I don't think they're going to want to give up any of their young core. Craig Anderson's playing well. Eric Comrie, their goaltenders. Their top line's been playing well too. So, is Buffalo ready to contend? No, but are they ready to make that leap into the playoffs? I think so. I mean, the Islanders aren't playing that great right now. Washington, they went on a heater, but they're still beatable. They just beat them. So I think if they can sneak into the playoffs, it's going to be good for Sabres fans and for the city of Buffalo and for that team to just build confidence going into next season. They may not win a playoff series, but just getting there will do a lot for them.
Yeah. Last week, just to kind of go back away from the standings a little bit and talk about some of the other things going on. One of the things that happened this past week was the annual Winter Classic at Fenway this year between the Penguins and the Bruins, which I know – one thing I know is they had a record sales for merchandise, I think.
Yes, they did.
Coming out of this game. Is this game still got the luster that it's had in the past, Jim?
I mean, look, 1.8 million people watched the game on TNT. I think that number could have been better if it was on regular national television, but that's not the deal that they have right now. But to me, I think, I think if you do it with that's why everybody complains. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to see the same teams, but when they have different teams and the game doesn't rate well, they're like, well, we have to go back to the teams that work. The setting makes everything. It's an experience, and it's a fan experience. It's for the sponsors. It's everything. Nobody cares about the game because the game's really never that good. It's sloppy. Obviously, the Bruins won 2-1, 2 late period goals by Jake DeBrusk on a broken fibula to win the game. But it was really cautious, sloppy hockey. The outdoor games are really not great. It's more of a spectacle and an experience to be there. The setting was great, Fenway Park. I love how they redesigned the rink this year. Instead of going from first to third, they went down they put it the way they did. It was a better look. It felt better. It looked better. Everything they did about it. Now we'll see. Next year they're going to Seattle for the Kraken and Vegas, 2 of the new expansion teams. They'll play in the Mariners ballpark. We'll see what they can do. Again, how many people will be interested in the game? Who knows? But they're still going to do it until fans stop going to these games. Yeah. They're going to keep having them.
That was my next question. This isn't something that's going to go away until it completely is in a ditch, which I don't see really happening.
No, it's a fun experience. It's a fun game for people to check out. They want to watch it. It's something different. It's outdoor hockey. Obviously, some of the earlier games you really can't top, like that first one in Buffalo with Pittsburgh, the Snow Globe. I mean, I was in Ann Arbor for the 2014 Winter Classic with Detroit and Toronto, went to a shootout. It was actually a really good game. So it's fun to watch and an experience to be there, and how they set up the fan experience is great. Again, the game on the ice may not be the greatest, but it's all about the spectacle and leading up to puck drop, really.
And you get some casual fans in, which is important for hockey, I think, as well.
Exactly.
Right. So I didn't realize that the ladies played an outdoor game, Rick is pointing out here, and it looked well attended.
I think there was a bunch of college games that happened. Some, they had some women's college hockey there too at Fenway. They had some other games too. So again, it's an experience. You have to experience it, and then it's like, okay, I can watch from my television.
Because I know CA is a little distracted and behind us today. He does have a comment on your Colorado. It looks like they're holding up well despite injuries. Champions and contenders in the West, obviously, as we know. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. I just want to make sure CA knew I wasn't ignoring him. That's all. So
I mean, look, the big thing for Colorado is, they're going to need to look to add a second line center. And, it's, obviously the loss of Nazem Kadri, they've been looking potentially if Jonathan Taves waives his no trade movement clause from Colorado, maybe that from Chicago, that's a guy they could bring in, maybe a guy like Bo Horvat from Vancouver to help with their second line center position. But, again, the salary cap, what are you going to move in? How are you going to move it out? Where's the money going to go? It's really tough. So we're going to see what Colorado does.
I know you were off to check out the juniors, the World Juniors. Canada beat the Czechs in the final. I believe U.S. Lost in the semis. Was that?
That's correct. But the U.S. won bronze. So
yeah. So anything we should take away from that? Is this a good showing for the USA? I mean, Canada certainly winning is not a surprise. What's your overall view of this and impact we might see from this later on?
Look, I mean, there's a lot of good players in this tournament. David Juracek, defenseman for Czechia. He's a Columbus draft pick. You're going to see him coming up probably real soon. Devils have defenseman Luke Hughes. He looked outstanding for Team USA as well. And, it was a good showing for Team USA. I think they definitely wanted to win gold. Blowing the lead against Canada in the semifinal game was definitely tough. But the fact that they rebounded, they were able to win an 8-7 wild game against Sweden in overtime. Take home a medal is better than taking home no medal. And, USA played really well. Again, I think they needed to clean up a couple of things, but they won a pond hockey game. And, guys like Logan Cooley, you're going to see in the league of Phoenix, an Arizona draft pick. Then you go to Montreal, you go to Canada, right? You see the guys that they got. Connor Bedard, 17 years old, what he did, tournament MVP, best forward in the tournament. He's only 17 years old and had 23 points. This kid's going to be the number one draft pick this summer. It doesn't matter where he goes. He's that type of talent that he can make an impact right away. Joshua Waugh for the Montreal Canadiens. This kid is good. Good to see Shane Wright, Seattle Kraken draft pick, have a big smile on his face, play well, score a big goal for Canada, and, do his thing. Obviously, you had on the back end, Owen Zellweger played really well. And then Dylan Gunther, it's funny. He had 5 goals coming into this game, all on a power play. He scores another power play goal for Canada, for 6 power play goals, and then scores the even strength to win it for Canada. I thought Thomas Milic played great for Canada in between the pipes. He came out of nowhere, but that's usually what happens in these short tournaments. The Team USA is pretty much set with their goaltending with Trey Augustine for the next couple of years. So, look, this tournament was fun. The fact that it was so competitive, games went to overtime. The medal games went to overtime. Instead of Big Four now, Czechia is back in it. So it's really nice to see that even without Russia there, that there's a lot of competitiveness amongst the other nations, and that's what you want from this type of tournament. It was really good to see.
Good. Well, you know what? Youth hockey is certainly important to the growth of hockey here in the U.S. And I know, well, I have a guy who used to work for me. He certainly roots for Team Canada. He's from Canada. He played in the Devils organization for a long time. Never made the big show. He played in the minors. You might know his name. I don't know. Brett Cloutier is his name.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
I always joke because there used to be a site you could find on the web with like guys' fight histories.
Yeah.
And he had like 146 fights. I used to joke with him that he lost like 145 of them, but I don't think he did because he's a big freaking guy. Great guy too, I can tell you. He worked for me for about 6 years. Good guy. What else should we know about hockey, Jim? Anything else you want to share before we let you go this morning?
I mean, look, the NHL All-Star selections are out. I mean, fans can vote on all that stuff.
Yep.
The game's next month in Florida, so it should be good. Again, it's the All-Star game. It's about the experience and everything. Of course, Rick, anytime, I'll be here giving you the updates from the National Hockey League. But, it's just, we're back at it. Second kind of this quasi second half of the season is kind of starting now. Things to keep an eye on as things roll in is starting to see what the trade rumors are, teams that heat up, what's going to, who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers. But everything's so jam-packed right now as the salary cap is just playing hectic on what guys can move, and just to see what announcement comes on Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves, and if they decide to leave Chicago. I think that's what everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, good stuff. Guys, check out Jim on fullpresshockey.com. That's a great website for if you want to keep up on everything going on in hockey. Jim and the other guys that contribute there are certainly top-notch. Jim's doing a great job. Check his stuff out there, and certainly check out his stuff on Let's Talk Sports, because Jim's a major contributor over there as well. So great job again today, Jim. As always, thank you very much, and we'll certainly be bringing you in on a regular basis when you're available on Sundays now. So
absolutely, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to talk some hockey.
Excellent. Have a great Sunday, Jim. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Alan, you're right. There is nobody better than Jim Biringer when it comes to hockey. That's why he's our man on hockey. That's for sure. And CA with a little thumbs up. So good stuff, guys. Go to fullhockey.com and put it in your favorites, because there's some great articles. Jim does some great stuff. The other guys do some great stuff as well. So, and Jim also, as I said, check him out as he's a fairly regular contributor on Let's Talk Sports. You'll see his updates sometimes nightly. He'll do a wrap up some nights, and so check that out. What do we got here? Also, go Giants. Alan, I know you had some football comments going on there. I'll get back to. I think the last one CA had, I guess, was just we'll move on. Look, we got to play the games the way they're presented to us by the NFL. And we'll go back to that right now, actually, and talk some NFL. I don't know if Drew's with us. I was going to spend some major time on baseball later today, but maybe we won't. We'll see how we go. If Drew's here, I was going to go through some of the scorecards for the not scorecards, but a little bit of a review for the major league teams. We got a lot of time to do that. Review for their winter hot stove moves, if you will. But we certainly don't have to dive into that all today. We'll talk a little baseball at the end of the show, or the last half hour, whatever we have time for here. The NFL today, certainly some important games to be played. Obviously, the one that's most important to me is Buffalo and the Patriots. Tough spot for the Patriots today, going in there with the emotion, as I said earlier on the show. Oh, by the way, before I move on, as we got a nice crowd here, I want to share as I was taking down the tree, my favorite Christmas gift. My second favorite Christmas gift is this beautiful shot that was taken maybe a week after our granddaughter was born, and the first best gift was her, obviously, this Christmas. So that was my second best gift. So a little self-indulgence there. Sorry. Patriots and Bills, bad spot for the Patriots without the tragedy, near tragedy. I'm not going to call it tragedy anymore because he's going to survive, and hopefully he's going to have a full recovery. Everything looks good at the moment. Again, continued prayers to Damar Hamlin. And I hope he does continue to improve, and I hope he can continue his career. That's not the most important thing. Recovering and leading a full life is. With that said, tough spot for the Patriots, even without it. Buffalo's had their way with the Patriots pretty much, except for the windblown game last year where the Patriots won 3-0, I believe. The Bills have just had their way with them. Josh Allen has owned them. And now you've got the emotion of what happened last Monday, and Damar Hamlin talking to his team here in the last couple of days. I wouldn't be shocked to see a video message from Damar Hamlin to the fans before this game, which will fire up the stadium. Now, this could work to the Bills' favor. It could also backfire a little bit because they could be over emotionally charged. But listen, I think this is going to be a tough spot for the Patriots. They got to play a perfect football game today It's winning in. Very simple. I know Alan thought the Steelers had the easiest shot. Not when you got to root for two teams to lose, but the Patriots will, as he did mention, in fairness to him, the Patriots have the toughest game, I think, and it'll be tough. Perfect game. I think they can win this, and I will tell you from a heart bet, Patriots will win 23-20. But we'll talk about that in the picks. Other games, though, that do matter, of course, probably the most watched game, we'll know at 8:30 whether it's win or in for both teams between the Packers and the Lions. Because if Seattle wins, then the Packers still get in if they win, but the Lions cannot get in if Seattle wins. Who would have thought the Packers even had a shot? Who would have thought the Steelers even would have had a shot? They started the season, I want to say 2-7, the Steelers, and at 4-8 just a month ago, I had the Packers dead. They looked awful. Great job by Aaron Favre. That's one of my best faux pas ever. Aaron Rodgers, and also LaFleur, the head coach. I mean, they've done a great job. Mike Tomlin's done a great job in Pittsburgh. Going to continue. Listen, Mike Tomlin is going to be one of the contenders for Coach of the Year. His team's 2-7 without a really good quarterback. Their running game was a disaster early in the season. And yet they found their way to be on the outside with an outside shot of making the playoffs. So Green Bay tonight with a great chance to win. Detroit could have a great chance to win. I like Green Bay. We'll go through the games here in just a few minutes and recap the standings. You got some other games for seeding. The Cowboy Commander game, as Alan, I'm sure, has posted about 10 times here since I started talking about this, is an important game for the Cowboys, as the Eagles game is important. But, the Eagles are going to roll today, guys, because the Giants aren't playing anybody. And by all accounts, unless something's changed, Hurts is going to play for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will roll and wrap up the home field in the NFC. You're still playing for second. Well, you're still playing for first, but even if you don't get first, you're still playing for second with the Cowboys and the Vikings and the 49ers. 49ers playing some great football. So these games, all important games. And obviously I missed in the AFC, the Jets and Miami's important. Not important if the Patriots win. Patriots win, none of the other games in the AFC matter. Packers win, none of the other games in the NFC matter, but it's played late, so those games all matter when they're played. Last night we saw some Kansas City just dominate. Jarrett Stidham is not the answer. Stidham is not the answer for the Raiders any more than he was for the Patriots. It's pretty obvious to me. The Chiefs had their way with them. I mean, they had a lot of fun too. I mean, again, we talked about this on the Mac and Jack and Jim show this morning. That razzle dazzle, what they call it, the snow globe play that they ran. I mean, I don't think it's a joke. I think that was a. By the way, you can have some fun in these games, even though they're big games, right? And I think it's something you throw out there that puts something in somebody's mind. The Jaguars last night, Lawrence didn't play a great game, but that defense of the Jaguars, really good. They won the game for them. Not just because they were in that touchdown in near the end on the fumble and scoop play, but they played well all game long. I mean, a different defense than the one that was out there yesterday, and Derrick Henry might have run for 300 yards last night. But the Titans had a tough spot with Dobbs at quarterback and whatnot. So anyway, we got some comments here. We will follow up on here. There's Drew. Hang on 1 second. What's this? I had him on my Tron trail before as well. Who, Jim? Oh, Jim Biringer. Jim's awesome. By the way, Jim's good on college football with me. Jim can talk pretty much all the sports as well. He's our hockey guru. That's why we have him in. There's Drew. Good evening. Or good evening. I just wasted a whole Sunday, apparently. Good morning, Drew. Good to have you. yesterday's Titan-Jags outcome, as I said before, the Jaguars, listen, they'll be a tough out maybe in the playoffs. I don't think they'll win. Who are they going to get? Well, they're going to get a home game, right? So they're going to play who are they going to play? I guess it depends on, what does it depend on? They're probably going to get the Chargers. Yeah, they're going to get the Chargers probably at home. Be an interesting game. Jags will have a chance. Trevor Lawrence didn't play a great game last night, but Trevor Lawrence's maturity is I think was evident last night. I think the difference between him and Doug Peterson has been just a great coach to bring in for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it was a nightmare there with Urban Meyer, but Peterson is a tremendous quarterback coach. He did wonders. Carson Wentz, he made an all-pro, Pro Bowl player, right? Carson Wentz had his best seasons under Peterson. He's able to win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. He's a good coach for quarterbacks, and he's done a great job teaching that team. Early in the year, they were playing really close games and not winning, and we were talking about the fact that they needed to learn how to win. Well, they've learned how to win now. You saw evidence of it last night. Stay in games. Don't let your offense take you out of games, which they really didn't. And let the defense win the game. And that's what happened last night. If the opportunity arises, right? The offense has got to play better than it played last night. But the Titans got a good defense. Interesting play, too. And there was a lot of debate about this, again, on the Mac and Jack and Jim show this morning. The play where there was, I want to say it was in the second half. It was first half. I don't remember now. We were doing some babysitting last night, so I was kind of distracted and trying to keep track. There was a play where the Titans had a play over the middle, and then the guy looked like initially just threw the ball up in the air, but it was a designed play. As you watch the replay, the receiver was catching the ball into the far sideline. You can see the guy lining up by himself, waiting for something, and he just didn't have a chance to get the ball off before the defenders got to him, and then he tried to throw it up in the air, which was a little bit dangerous. It ended up being a forward pass. But again, an interesting wrinkle. I don't think it was it's probably a bad play once you're hit. You might as well eat the ball. I got a couple comments, too, about a couple players, once I catch up on the comments, about a couple players in this Kansas City game yesterday and the Jags game last night. The Giant fans won't be happy to hear about. Thank you for that, Carlos. Definitely a blessing. Might as well be an Aaron Farr fan at this point. Oh, my God. There'd probably be nobody I'd hate more in football, in sports ever than Aaron Farr. Doug Peterson he will have a shot. There'll be some contenders. We're going to talk about coaches in a little bit, coaches in trouble, and maybe we'll talk about coaches in the running for coach of the year. You know, what's interesting is coaches who win are expected to win, rarely win this award. But a guy who I've never been a huge fan about, McDermott, ought to be up for this award, right? Zach Taylor. Andy Reid. What about the demise of the Chiefs? I kept saying was badly overstated. We'll talk more about that. Giants are playing their starters. Not the way I understand it, Alan. Let me double check something. We checked the New York Post. Again, I think we talked about your sources last night. I believe Davis Webb is starting at quarterback today. Somebody can correct me on this. Let's see. I got a preview right here. Yeah, this isn't going to tell me, is it? No, this one won't tell me. The way I understood the report last night in New York Post is that Davis Webb has been activated and will start this game over Tyrod Taylor tonight. Josh McDaniel debacle in Vegas. Listen, you know what? Josh McDaniel's probably going to get another year. because they won this team. And again, you are what your record says you are. But this team has so many ways to lose. Last night was a blowout, obviously. The Derek Carr situation is what it is. He's not a quarterback who's ever going to take you to the Super Bowl. Cutting ties with him and benching him to see what you're going to get out of Stidham at the end of the year is not the end of the world. Teams have done this for forever. He's not the answer either, as I said. But Derek Carr will be somewhere else next year, whether it be the Jets or the team formerly known as the Redskins or the Panthers or wherever. He'll be somewhere else. Losing, probably playing just well enough to lose in the playoffs or something. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, he'll get another year. A lot of rumors floating around that Tommy's going to leave Tampa Bay and reunite with Josh McDaniel. I don't think that's the answer for Josh McDaniel. Would it be the answer in the short term? Because there's a lot of weapons on that offense, and having a seasoned quarterback like Tommy would be great, but he's also going to be, 46 years old. And even if he were to kind of find the magic one more time, it's one season. I think the Raiders need to build something for the future, and they need to address that defense. Their defense has not played well. They've lost double-digit leads like 4 times this year at least. Josh McDaniels will probably get another, and a lot of that comes to coaching. Don't get me wrong. Josh McDaniels will probably get another year, or at least the start of another year. And as much as I'd like to see him fired and come back to the Patriots, I think he'll be safe. The question is going to be whether they can bring a quarterback in there to keep Devontae Adams happy. And I know he's asked to have a say in who that is going to be. He came here because he wanted to play with his former college teammate. So they got to keep Devontae Adams happy, or they got bigger problems yet. Hurts is expected to play, but it hasn't been confirmed. I think you will see Jalen Hurts play today, at least part of this game. And I do think the Eagles will win. And I don't think Daniel Jones at least is playing. And I'd be shocked if Saquon Barkley played in this game. At least if they play, it isn't going to be more in a series. It shouldn't be. I'm a big fan of playing your players, to be honest with you. But I'd be shocked to see them play just because of the mentality that a lot of these teams have today, where they don't play these guys in these types of games. Tom Brady's playing today. Tom Brady wants to win. He thinks this game is as important as any game. That's the approach you ought to take. I'll get into the college. We'll get into the college football final before we get done here. I promise, Rick. Because I do have some comments about TCU as well. As of now, the Chargers against the Jaguars. That's what I thought. Herbert Lawrence will be a fun matchup to watch. I think Herbert's probably still a little bit ahead. He was ahead of Lawrence, obviously, out of the gate. And I think he's probably still ahead of Lawrence just a tad. Listen, a lot of people have been down on Herbert this year. He's managed to keep, along with the defense, which they've had injuries on both sides of the football. They managed to stay close enough to get their players healthy and now have a chance to get 11 wins. Not too bad. When you're without your top receiver for, 75% of the season, maybe more. I have not brought the baby to Druthers yet. We had her last night for about 3 hours as the kids went out for some dinner, but no, we didn't take her to Druthers. She's not ready to travel with us. She's been out with the kids to a couple of places for short, just a quick stop. I don't know where they have had her, but they've had her out and about. I did walk a lot last night because she likes to be walked when she's a little fussy. She likes to be walked around. And so I did a lot of walking while I was watching the game and cruising the whole house. Dable has been a very good. I want to talk a little bit about this. I just want to see what Alan's got to say here, and I'll go back. Yes, they're resting. Just say that they made that decision yesterday. Yeah, okay. I thought you said they were starting. They're playing their starters. Dable said early in the week that he was going to play everybody. That's why he's cool. Yeah, it was a surprise, actually, that they had activated Davis Webb to start this game. Not just because Jones wasn't playing, but he's playing over Tyrod Taylor, which I think is okay. Tyrod Taylor's got no future in this league. He's old. Anyway. But Dable, back to Drew's comment. I got one. Dable's done a great job this year. Great job. I know that the Mad New Yorker will certainly disagree with me because you have watched before your eyes, and you're not talking. There's nobody on this planet who hates the New York Giants more than I do. Not Eagles fans, not Dallas fans, not any fans. For obvious reasons. Having to live with Giants fans for 2 games that I'd rather forget. But Brian Dable's, the job he's done with this team overall and with Daniel Jones specifically is not short of miraculous. There's not a lot of difference. Where are the additions to this offense? This offense is worse talent-wise than it was last year, other than Barkley being better a year removed from his injury. The skill position players are worse than they were last year. We'll talk a little bit about 2 of those players in a second. But Daniel Jones has had a tremendous year this year, grown tremendously from where he was. Don't care what any of you say. Watch the games, watch the film, and look at the numbers, which numbers don't tell everything. But Daniel Jones was a turnover machine. What has he got? 6 turnovers this year? 7? 6 or 7 fumbles. Fumbles was his biggest deal. He's only lost 1 fumble all year. So Brian Dable, he would be coach. He'll be in this discussion as well. But with the Giants, and I talk about the skill positions around Jones, how good would this offense be if it had Evan Ingram and Tony? Now, the previous coaching staff couldn't do anything with Ingram, and the Giants gave up on him. He's had a tremendous year in Jacksonville this year. He's been a huge part of that offense. Now, today it came up because, it was said, well, now because he's taught to catch the ball and fall down, not run with it and fumble. And then somebody else said, well, he couldn't catch passes. That's why the Giants got rid of him. Well, if you cut ties with him and he plays well somewhere else, that's kind of on you as much as it is on the player. Now, maybe the player changed his approach, grew up, did whatever. Same with Tony in Kansas City. The Giants, that was this administration that cut him. Now, he was drafted by the previous. But that was this coaching staff and front office that decided to cut him. And I know the kid had some issues in New York, maturity issues, showing up to practice issues. That's all the same thing probably. But he goes to Kansas City where he's not in the spotlight, and he's a huge part of that offense. He doesn't need to be number 1. But again, sometimes you give up too soon on guys. I talk about it a lot. I don't think Tony was a bad kid. I just think he was an immature kid who needed to grow up a little bit. Jets got the same problem with Elijah Moore right now. Sometimes you can't give up on these guys too soon. How good would that Giant offense be with these versions of Tony and Ingram? And sometimes, and let's not forget the coaches. Again, the Jaguars coaching staff and the Chiefs coaching staff are able to coach these guys up to play 100% better than they played with the Giants. We already got that. Anthony, what do you got? Yeah, it's funny. Last week, some people were running with this Denver story that he had a deal in place for like 5 years at $300 million or 6 years at $300 million, whatever it was. Stupid. It wasn't true. He hadn't even talked to Denver. Will he be part of the conversation in Denver? Yes. But Sean Payton, they've already asked for permission to talk to Sean Payton. So that's going to happen. We'll go through we're going to go through the league real quickly, and we'll talk about some of the guys. So Jim Harbaugh is going to get a job in the NFL this year. Jim Harbaugh will have a job in the NFL if he's offered one. Rick, you'll love this one. I read in a story this week that Harbaugh decided to decline the Vikings offer last year and return to Michigan as part of it was part of the story talking about him interviewing, the only team that we know that he's talked to is Carolina so far. But I thought it was funny they said he turned down the Minnesota job last year where, as far as I know, he was never offered the job. Too funny, right? So close to perfection. I'm not sure what that one is referring to. Oh, maybe my granddaughter. I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't need Daniel Jones. You keep saying that question. Here's the thing. You're going to be very sorry when Daniel Jones, if they let him walk. If they let him walk, you'll be very sorry when he goes somewhere and leads that team, as he did this one, to the playoffs, which nobody outside of Eli Manning has done. Anyway, whatever. I'm done trying to convince Giants fans of what's staring them right in the face. I hate the Giants. If he hadn't been the number 16, and again, I can go back and look at this subjectively. I got the wrong word. Whatever. I can go back and look at this more realistically than you can. I get it. I can remove myself from the situation and say, he got picked 6 in the draft. I understand why the fans are upset, but it's not his fault he got picked 6 in the draft. If he'd been a late second round, mid-second round pick and took this long to develop, fans would be very happy with him. If you can't see that this guy is a leader on the field for this team, I don't know. Again, I know that's a foreign concept to you, Carlos. Leadership meaning something. Growing as a player and as a leader. There are a lot of quarterbacks in football that would have led this team to 10 wins this year. Probably a lot of people are tied with me. I mean, I don't have the same daily vitriol for the Giants as I said, Eagles, Redskins, Cowboys fans have. But I've got 2 very good reasons to hate them and will hate them forever. First of all, he's a tight end, by the way. So he's a first tight end. And every team needs a third receiver. He's got 70-plus catches this year, fourth among tight ends in the league, I believe. But that might have been going into last night. It might be better. So if you're going to tell me again, if I take the Evan, again, Carlos, you miss the points almost every time. If you're going to tell me if I take Evan Ingram and that I'm seeing it right now play for the Jaguars and put him on the Giants, they wouldn't be so much better, then I just don't have any answer for you. Who won Coach of the Year last year? Good question, Alan. Who is it? I'm going to say it was, without looking it up, I'm just going to look at I'm going to look at my little standings here. Look at these teams. I'm going to say Coach of the Year last year was Zach Taylor. That'll be my guess. Giants won't have Mahomes, don't have Mahomes or even Lawrence. Well, what is that? First of all, I would say Daniel Jones is at least equal with Lawrence at this point. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Nobody's ever sat here and said he'd be Patrick Mahomes or the old version of Russell Wilson. You don't need the best quarterback in the league to win the Super Bowl. You just don't. It helps. It absolutely helps, but you don't need the best one to win. Rams didn't have the best quarterback in football last year. He had a very good year last year, but he's not the best quarterback in football by a mile. Lack of an offer to who? Daniel Jones? Giants are going to beat the Vikings in the playoffs. It'll be a good game. Definitely Jones and Barkley will be brought back. There's no way they can't bring these guys back. There's no better option than Daniel Jones. What's the better option that's going to be available? And it's got to be realistic. You're not going to bring Aaron Jones in here or Aaron Rodgers in here at this stage of his career. I've called him everything except Aaron Rodgers today. Derek Carr? I'll tell you, Daniel Jones is a better quarterback and a better leader than Derek Carr. There's no better option for the Giants. There is for the Jets, not for the Giants. Saquon is the one who cares. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And those things make the quarterbacks better. Franco Harris carried the Steelers. Terry Bradshaw's in the Hall of Fame. My God. You just don't get it. I can't help you. I can't help you. Unless you want to go back and learn from the beginning about what's important to these teams and winning football and what makes good quarterbacks, and I can't help you anymore, Carlos. I really can't. You can't be convinced, and I'm going to stop trying. You're entitled to your opinion, and when he wins a Super Bowl, if he does, I don't want him to win a Super Bowl because it'll probably be against me. And I'm not saying it's this year before you write that. They will be, because they're and I'm one, and I get it. I'm not a football New York fan, but I'm a New York fan for everything else. We're unreasonable. And I get it. But it also blinds you. Wow, Carlos, was he a terrible tight end with the Giants? Yup. But that colors everything. So his career's over because he did nothing for the Giants and they gave up on him. Rather than coach him up and make him the player that he is now, they gave up on him. He's not a terrible tight end. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. Ridiculous. Oh, man. Who does block at tight end in today? If you're a receiving tight end, there's very few to block. Travis Kelce, he's okay. Gronk was good. Gronk was a very good blocking tight end. But there's a lot of tight ends out there who aren't any worse than Evan Ingram. And by the way, he certainly hasn't hurt the Jaguars running game because it's been very good. Last night you didn't see it, but they were going up against one of the best run defenses in football. Man, pay attention. Mike Vrabel won last year. All right. By the way, Mike Vrabel, don't be surprised. This year or next Ohio State head coach. He's similar to Graham and never. Graham at his best, that's a pretty good guy to be compared to. I don't think the Giants can afford to keep Barkley and Jones. Again, that could be a possibility. What's going to happen is, listen, I don't know if Jones were to get offered stupid money somewhere by one of these teams that badly needs a quarterback, the Giants might have a decision to make. They may not bring him back if the bidding gets up there, and it very well might. Which would probably make it tough for them to keep both of these guys. But I think, why would you stunt the progress unless there's absolutely no way to do it? And by the way, good cap people find a way. You bring in and I'm sure the Bills have done this. You bring in good cap people, you can find a way to get this done. They were playing one of the best defenses in football last night, Carlos. Oh, Harbaugh. Yes, I got you now. Now I remember. Yeah, Vrabel did. Yeah, Alan had said Vrabel won. That's. I probably should have kept going. Maybe I would have got to him. No, I would have thought Zach Taylor had won last year. To be honest with you, but I don't know what you got to do to win that award. I guess winning playoff games and getting to the Super Bowl doesn't matter. You won't see him on Giants. Jets, I wouldn't rule it out. You know, it's funny. You talked Carr up a lot last year until he threw the interception against the Bengals in the playoffs. I kept telling you he was not a great NFL quarterback. CA's having a bit of a I'm not sure what's going on there, CA. Short list of coach of the year this year: Peterson, Dabo, McDermott, Sirianni, all good names. I think Mike Tomlin will get some attention as well for his team starting 2-7 if he makes the playoffs, especially. You probably nailed it. They're not going to give it to McCarthy. O'Connell in Minnesota might get some votes as well. I don't know. They must obviously, if Mike Vrabel won last year, then they must obviously vote before the playoffs. Well, I guess it's based on, I don't know if it's based on regular season. I don't know what it's supposed to be based on or whatever. Campbell from the Lions might get some consideration. One of the guys that Carlos hates the most might get some consideration, the way he brought the Packers back. Who else? That's probably going to be. Well, listen, another guy that Carlos absolutely hates, Shanahan, will get some attention as well, possibly. It's a pretty wide open field. I think there's a lot of guys that could have a chance here. Rightfully so. I think there's a lot of guys that have a case. I think a legitimate case to be considered. Carlos Cosell. Sorry, Carlos. I had to laugh. That's funny, actually. Carlos Cosell is hilarious. I love it. It's a regular season award. They don't count the playoffs. Well, that's part of the problem. I mean, the total body of work for a coach is through the playoffs. So it's ridiculous for this not to include the playoffs. Same with probably play. I know the MVP awards are the same thing, but I'm beginning to think not Carlos. CA might be filling in for Kenny this morning, Rick. I don't know what's going on out there where he is. I don't know that I can really throw Jeff Saturday in there. I'd like to. I don't even. Has he won a game? He's won one game, hasn't he? Has he won one game? Is that right? Blew a 32-point lead. What else has he done? Jeff Saturday probably won't be the coach. Here's another topic for the NFL before we move on to the picks here. And the picks are going to be tough today because there's so many games that are just. Let's go through these. What coaches are in trouble? McDermott? No. Belichick? No. Mike McDaniel in Miami probably should be a little careful about making any big real estate purchases because this guy looked like a genius until the time he mentioned, the way to win in cold weather and snow is to score more points. And actually, the way to win in warm weather is to score more points. And in general, the way to win games is to score more points. And I swear to God, he was serious. I think McDaniel maybe should keep an eye on his job status, especially with a mercurial guy like Stephen Ross pulling the strings down there. He fired a winning head coach. Robert Salem, he's probably safe. Although LaFleur, which I'm sure the Mad New Yorker will like, the offensive coordinator, could be in trouble, especially when he goes out and he admits this week that they should have sat Zach Wilson last year. Certainly Taylor's not in trouble. Harbaugh's not in trouble. Tomlin's not in trouble. I would say, who's the coach in Cleveland? Stefanski? Is that right? Do I have that right? I thought I had this up. I guess I don't. Nah, I guess it's Kevin Stefanski, I think, still. With the Browns, be careful. I really think Ryan Day will be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. If it's not this year, it could be next year. What else we got here? I lost my, damn it. There we go. Where else was I? Obviously, Peterson's not in any trouble. Vrabel, doubt won't be in trouble, but he may move his own volition at some point next year or two if Ohio State throws enough at him. His alma mater wants him badly from everything I read in the college underworld. Jeff Saturday, I find it hard to believe they'll bring him back. Jim Harbaugh, rumored in that job along with Carolina and Denver right now. He has ties, obviously, to Indianapolis. He played part of his career there. Won a comeback award there, went to an AFC championship game there. Lovie Smith may be in trouble. Again, wasn't a good hire to begin with. I think it might have been a caretaker thing because, you're going to bring in a coach for a couple of years. He may make it another year just because they're still not ready to win. And I think it's a caretaker situation where they don't want to bring a coach in there to fail. So let's bring a lifer in to fill the gap. Obviously, Reed's safe. Staley should be safe with the Chargers, although some of his game management skills are weird. Josh McDaniel could be one and done. I do think he'll get another year. Denver's looking for a coach, obviously. They've already put out feelers and want to talk to Sean Payton, who I do think will be back. We're going to get to an interesting one here in the NFC, and I'll start with it, I guess. Sean McVay will not get fired, but Sean McVay seems to be seriously considering for the second year in a row stepping away from his position as a head coach of the Rams. And I think it's entirely possible he should do just that. Certainly, Sirianni's fine. McCarthy, who knows? McCarthy, if the Cowboys go one and done, or maybe if the Cowboys don't reach the NFC Championship game, maybe even if they do and lose it, he could be in trouble if Jones wants to jump into the Sean Payton conversation. Now, remember, you're going to probably have to give up at a minimum a number one pick to get him. Dable certainly is safe. Ron Rivera, who I've had a lot of respect for, I think now is on the hot seat. The way it was commendable the way he brought and I'll get to your comments in a second, guys. The way he brought back the team formerly known as the Redskins this year from a dismal start was commendable. Got him in playoff position. But he made some silly decisions. Going back to Wenke 2 weeks ago was stupid. Last week, I guess, was stupid. Then he didn't even know he was out of the playoffs last week during his press conference. Now, maybe that's because he didn't know the results of all the games, whatever. I just think he's in trouble. There'll be new ownership most likely there, maybe before next season, as soon as before next season, but he'll be in trouble. O'Connell in Minnesota is certainly safe. Campbell's safe now. I would say LaFleur is safe. Just a Chicago coach. Who the hell knows? They'll probably keep him only because you got to find out. If this isn't a coaching issue, this is a lack of talent issue. Todd Bowles, probably safe. Never know. Panthers will be looking for a coach, although I think Wilkes has probably given himself a chance to keep this job on a full-time basis. The Falcons won't be looking for a new coach just yet. Shanahan is certainly safe. Pete Carroll's safe. Pete Carroll's there till he wants to leave. We talked about McVay, and I think Cliff Kingsbury is a dead man walking. He's gone. I think they're cleaning house there in Arizona. Clem, the GM, is already missing in action due to health issues, which again I'll take at face value, but he's out ahead of the posse probably. Kenny's trying to get on Facebook. I think I see a comment from him here down the road. Give up 33 points in the fourth quarter Saturday is for sure is gonna. What gave up? What the hell is that? What is that? Dallas coach. Oh, coach of the year? Gonna get fired. I'm gonna get fired. Yes. Again, I talked about McCarthy, Kenny, and if he gets to the Super Bowl, he likely keeps his job. It's going to depend on Sean Payton and whether Sean Payton is interested in coaching the Cowboys and how badly Jerry Jones might want him. If that's the case, Mike McCarthy could win a Super Bowl and maybe decide to spend more time with his family. We'll see. Hello, Northeast Streaming Sports, whether it's Mac or Linda. Good luck to the Pats today. We are going to need it. I talked about that earlier in the show. Perfect games got to get played today, man. I'll tell you. And emotions will be running high. If you weren't with me earlier, I'm positive we'll see a video message from DeMar Hamlin to the fans in Rich Stadium today, or whatever we're calling that stadium. It's still Rich Stadium to me. And I think emotions will be high, and it'll either the Bills will come out flying, their fans will certainly be happy and fired up, but the players will as well, and it's a matter of whether they control and channel that emotion correctly. If they do, it could be ugly for the Patriots. We need a perfect win. My heart says we can win this game, but that's not my head. Alan, here's the thing. McCarthy has led us. It doesn't matter. Jimmy Johnson, because the guy we're talking about getting rid of him got rid of Jimmy Johnson after winning a Super Bowl 2 out of 3 or 2 years in a row. You don't discount anything with Jerry Jones. When you walk away from your 2-time winning, two in a row winning Super Bowl coach, and you'll do anything. I think they got to. I don't think he's safe unless he gets to a Super Bowl, and even then, he may decide to spend more time with his family. Rams will likely clean house again. Let me reiterate. If Sean McVay leaves, he's not getting fired. He'll leave on his own volition. But I do think it's entirely possible, and that will allow the Rams to just gut everything, start all over with a new head coach, and Stafford to be playing somewhere else, if he's playing at all. Dallas game where Dallas scored 30. Oh, yeah. I got you. Thank you. Jeff Saturday's got no shot. Yes, Kenny, good to have you. Rick Sherlock is now owed a muffin by you. Let's not turn this into another Mark Mancini debacle. Patriots need a quarterback. No, that plays fair. I get it. It's funny. All the guys I watch walking around, it's amazing to me. All the guys I see running around, turning themselves into human missiles. Spearing guys, doing all kinds of crap that's barely legal. Mac Jones gets in trouble for tripping guys, and one little shot to the more sensitive areas of the anatomy. San Francisco and Seattle battling it out for the West for foreseeable future. I'm not sold that Seattle is built for the long run here. Geno Smith has had a great year. Pete Carroll's done a great job coaching up these guys. Kenneth Walker, the third, has really become a good running back. But this team, after a tremendous start, let's not forget, has not played great football. I think this team was, I think they were 6-2 at one point, right? Pretty sure at a minimum. So they're 2-6 since. So again, I don't think Geno Smith is a long-term answer here. I could be wrong, but where am I? And that's our last comment there. So let me go to the let's put up. We're not going to get that much baseball, unfortunately, today, but Drew. But we can certainly revisit that in the coming weeks. We got to talk some college football real quick. So we probably won't talk about baseball at all today. We'll get into it next week. Here, am I sharing this? I am. All right. Here's our overall standings. First place probably locked up by some guy with nobody knows. S. Craw. Good job. Good job by Allen surging into second place here late in the season. Probably a battle there with CA, maybe for second and third. Drew and myself battling it out for fourth and fifth, if I'm doing my math correctly. Remember, I went to Perth. That might be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. Fourth and fifth. Maybe an outside shot at third. And then you've got who else? Headless Horseman, who I still don't know who that is. He's fallen out. Waldo's fallen off the pace. Mad New Yorker was never, I don't know. Kenny, you got to get Carlos some weed. And maybe this score here is all we need to know about, it's some other things. Let's do our picks quick, and then we'll finish up with some college football. Final talk. I picked the Raiders yesterday plus 7.5. How'd that make out? Pretty good. I picked the Jaguars minus 6.5. How'd that make out? Oh my God. So I guess I won't be battling with you, Drew. I got the Buccaneers plus 2.5 on the road. I do believe Brady plays at least part of this game, and I think enough to get a victory on the road. And because I do not think this team wants to go in under 500 to the playoffs. I think they've got some incentive. If you listen to Brady talk this week, and if you know anything about the way Brady's handled these types of meaningless games, they'll probably play okay today. I will take the 7.5 with my team, the Patriots in Buffalo. I've already talked about this game, and I'm not going to get into great detail about it because I already have. Patriots need to play a perfect game. They do get Marcus Jones back, who's really helped them even in the offense the last month or so. Perfect game. Mac Jones needs to dial it up, stay mistake-free, make good decisions. Pat Patricia needs to make good calls at the right times. The special teams have to play much better, and they need to clean up the penalties and such. Perfect game, and they'll have a shot. If not, they could get blown out of the building with the emotion that will be there today. I'll take the Bears plus 3.5 today. I know there's no Josh Fields, but again, this is kind of is it a meaningless game? No, there's something for the Vikings to play for. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how long their guys will play. That's the problem with this last week. But I will take the Bears. I got to find 4 games to bet today, and Bengals will be one of them. I'll take the Bengals minus 6.5. This is an important game. Obviously, if they win this game, they will get the game at home next week. If they don't, we got the whole coin flip freaking thing. NFL again. Stupid. I'll say it one more time. I know I said I'd drop it, CA. I'll take the Texans over the Colts because I think the Colts have mailed it in. I think the Colts are ready to play some golf, and I think the Texans will be happy to get their 3rd win of the year. I'll take them on the road getting 2.5. I'm going to take the Jets to upset Miami. Miami's been a mess. And if the Patriots lose, they can still get in at 8-9 if the Dolphins and the Steelers both lose. I do think the Steelers will win, and that'll be one of my bets today as well. But I like the Jets, even with Joe Flacco, potentially to win this game. I'm going to take Carolina plus 3.5 against the Saints. It's a game that means nothing. So, you don't know whose pride is at a better level than somebody else's. I might go a little past 10:30 today too. I don't know. We'll talk a little college football. Steelers minus 3.5 over the Browns. the criminal that plays quarterback for the Browns that I refuse to even name, definitely has not played great football. And the team has not played great behind him. And I think they were playing better football before he got there. I'll take the Steelers. Mike Tomlin done a great job bringing this team back from 2-7 to have a chance even to get in the playoffs today. And Allen thinks they got the easiest shot, even though they need 2 other teams to lose. Best shot. He said best shot. Broncos, just because the Chargers, again, I don't believe the Chargers have a thing to play for. I think they're locked in where they are. We'll take the Broncos plus 3.5. I'm going to take the Eagles to roll over Davis Webb and the Giants. I'll take the Niners to roll over the Cardinals, just as the Cardinals are a mess. I mean, I don't know. Carlos might be playing quarterback for that team for all I know. And I'll take the Seahawks minus 6.5 over the Rams, who, again, the Rams are just a mess. I will take the team formerly known as the Redskins to win at home, at least cover at home against the Cowboys. By the time this game is played, the Cowboys will know whether they have anything to play for, I believe. And I'll take the Packers. This will be a bet tonight, too. The Packers will win and get in if minus 4.5. And I like them today. Let's see what we got here. Let me get rid of this. I'm not protecting the Patriots. Where am I protecting the Patriots? I said nothing about protecting the Patriots. Everything I said, and if you said it, if you think it, because I said there'll be emotionally charged there, I also said, and maybe I said it in my earlier comments because I've talked about this game like 3 times now, Kenny, and maybe you weren't here, so I apologize. I also said they would have a tough time in this game regardless. The Bills have owned the Patriots except for 1 game since Tom Brady retired. So I am in no way protecting the Patriots. And I got through saying in my head, I probably shouldn't be picking them, but I have to. They're my team. I will never pick against my team, ever. Double or nothing. Lions upset. Cowboys upset. Oh, yeah. Lions. It's a total homer pick. So you might want to revisit this pick at about 4:15 today, Alan, because when they got nothing to play for. I won't mention proved innocent, but yet back a ball kicker. I won't mention. Hold on. So you want to equate kicking a guy in a football field to raping 30 to 100 women. I shouldn't even justify that with a response. A league that lets murderers play, double murderers play, women, wife beaters, serial rapists, gun toters, but Mac Jones is suddenly public enemy number 1. You can't make this crap up. Let's get to Georgia TCU. We'll go a little long, so I won't be able to fit this on Roku today. I don't care. We'll go a little long so we can talk Georgia TCU. I will tell you, this game, I think, last time I saw it, it was 13.5. At least where I could have bet it at the time. I do like the points, not just because I really want to see. Sorry, Rick, the SEC elitists go down. Not necessarily you. I know you're a diehard Georgia fan. I don't know that you carry the same crazy nonsense in your head that some other SEC elitists carry around. That there's no other good football being played anywhere. But I'm rooting for TCU only because they'd be the most, in my mind, the or one of the most unlikely champions of all time. I mean, I look at some others. I was looking at a list of them today. And I had already had a bunch of these. I had Clemson in 81, the Hurricanes in 82. I think Michigan State 65. I knew about BYU in 1984. The most unlikely national champions. They fit on this list, maybe at the top of it. This team lost more games than they won last year. They were unranked to start the season. Their quarterback wasn't even a starter at the beginning of the season. Now, again, my heart says, oh, I'd love to see TCU win. Do I think they can win this game? I don't. I don't think they will win this game. Can they win this game? Yes. Will they win this game? Probably not. There is a way to beat Georgia. Ohio State showed you how to beat Georgia. Throw the ball accurately down the field, be able to get out of the pocket. I think Max Duggan can do all of that. I think he'll have a problem because Miller, his number one running back, is 50-50. I believe he sprained his ankle. I can't remember the injury off the top of my head right now. But I think if he plays and he can play anywhere near 100%, obviously that gives TCU a much better shot. Him being out, if the running game can't do anything, Max Duggan may have a lot of problems with this defense. By the way, rape is my word, Kenny. When you do the things that this disgusting piece of crap is accused of doing, it's rape. That's it. Very simple. What is this? I don't know. Ichiro. Welcome to the show. I don't know where Ichiro comes from. Great baseball player. I'm glad you were with us. I do think TCU would be the most unlikely national champion of all time, though. I will give him a chance, Rick. I certainly want to know your thoughts. Stetson Bennett, to me, is probably still, as I've been saying all along, he's the X factor. And Stetson Bennett wins this national championship. We talked about the great story that TCU is. I think if Stetson Bennett and Georgia win this back-to-back, I think it's just as big a story. Stetson Bennett to win back-to-back champions when all Georgia's ever tried to do. First of all, he's a walk-on. He's a walk-on player when he got there. Kirby Smart will tell you he's tried to replace him every single year. And all he's done is continue to win football games. Georgia's going to maybe have won 2 consecutive and been in the running for 2 other ones while he's been the quarterback. Look, it would be nice to see a repeat. It would also be nice to see a second-tier team win. Plus, if Georgia wins, it's on to a three-peat. True. I mean, they've got to replace their quarterback who's done nothing but win. But certainly, I mean, Georgia's the new Alabama right now. There's no doubt about it. They don't rebuild, they reload. And this team isn't as good as last year. I don't think anybody can dispute that. 15 players in it. We all know about the 15 guys who went in the draft. You know, a bunch of them in the first round and second round. And they've really replaced those guys pretty much effectively. Now, if you can throw the ball downfield, you got a chance to beat this team. Ohio State showed that. C.J. Stroud played a great football game last week. But if Georgia doesn't, and I don't think Ohio State had any semblance of a running game last week either, right? And they still managed to score 40 points. So I do think there'll be some points scored here. Obviously, they'll be better if Miller can play for TCU. There's a lot of great storylines all over the place here. Kirby Smart and going for 2 in a row. Moving himself up the ladder. I think Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach of all time. But at least Kirby Smart moves himself up to probably even with Nick Saban as the best coach currently in college football. If he hasn't already. I think Georgia has now surpassed Alabama as the model program in college football. Then you got the Stetson Bennett storyline, right? These are all great storylines. Sonny Dykes, who's been around the block forever. Sonny Dykes, who is a protege of Mike Leach, who just passed away Thanksgiving weekend, I believe it was, right? Sadly. That would be so many great storylines to this game. It'll be fun. I hope the game matches the hype. And not the hype, I guess it's not hyped that much, but I hope it matches my expectations that it's going to be a lot of fun to play. Yeah, he is a big guy, man. I think TCU showed last week. And again, Michigan's not Georgia. I understand. But I think TCU showed that they can play on the big stage, which was important. I think they showed they can overcome some adversity because that game, they were in control of that game. Much of it, Michigan fought back and TCU answered every time. Now, with all that said, I think TCU needs the kind of start that they had against Michigan, at least get out, quickly. Maybe it won't be 21-3, but they need to get out quickly. This is a team, I think, if they fall behind Georgia, it will not be like they've played with fire all year long falling behind, right? But I'm not sure that this team can fall behind this Georgia football team and have any chance to get back in the game. Dugan's the best player in college this year. I won't argue that at all, Kenny. Again, I think part of my problem and it's similar to some of the other awards we talk about, right? The ballots are eligible to be returned too soon. We haven't played all the games. Half the ballots were probably returned before the Big 12 championship game. I really believe that if every ballot, couldn't be returned until after the conference championship games, then I think Max Duggan would have won the award this year. I do think he's the best player in college this year. I don't disagree with that at all. And that's to take nothing away from Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams had a great year. But Max Duggan's, to me, the best player in college football this year. Not just his ability, but again, we talk about the leadership part of this equation, which I know doesn't matter to some people. But I think this team would be nowhere without Max Duggan. I mean, the best thing that Sonny Dykes did all year was to get him into the lineup in week 2. And it took an injury to do it. Harbaugh hurt Michigan with stupid play calling. That was, and again, it's probably, I guess to be somewhat fair to Harbaugh, he probably did make that play, but he certainly got the right of first refusal and say, no, we're not running that stupid play on the 2-yard line. And as I said on the college football show the other night, Rick, Michigan fans who are complaining about the refereeing, shut up. Couple bad calls, so what? You gave up 51 points. You're running double reverses. You couldn't punch the ball in from the 1 or 2 yard line. You lost fair and square. The referees didn't beat you. I'm so tired of people complaining about referees. I'll complain about referees, and I'll say this again. You have never heard me, and you never will hear me tell you we lost because of referees, ever. Doesn't mean they don't make bad calls, and I'll complain about it, but I'll never say that's why we lost. What else, Rick? What other comments we got about this game today? Drew, I don't know if you're still with us. I may talk a little about Trevor Bauer before I go, since I got a few minutes to kill here. I did want to get into right now. I'm talking about college football, though, aren't I? Well, we had up a lot on the NFL today. That's good, though. The final again. So here's the thing with a college football final. You got Sonny Dykes against Kirby Smart. I love, and by the way, Kirby Smart, Rick, I don't know if you were with me during the Wednesday show. I can't remember if you were there or not. I don't think you were. Kirby Smart and his coaching staff, because Kirby Smart didn't sniff this out all by himself. They're the reason Georgia is in the final. And the grittiness and the never say die attitude of Stetson Bennett. But Kirby Smart and his coaching staff sniffing out the fake punt and calling timeout just before they got a first down saved the game. That game was over. I'm going to tell you right now, that game was over if Ohio State gets that first down. So Kirby Smart, as much as I think Sonny Dykes has done a great job, and I like the job Sonny Dykes has done for a while, I think Kirby Smart wins that. Max Duggan against the Georgia defense, it's going to depend. If Duggan can be accurate down the field and keep plays alive with his feet, the way C.J. Stroud did, then maybe the edge goes to Duggan, and we're going to see a lot of points scored on both sides. I think the big difference is going to be the Georgia offense and Stetson Bennett against the TCU defense. This is a better, far more athletic team than Michigan. And I think they're going to have a hard time keeping up with Georgia on the defensive side of the football. And I think if TCU wants to win this game, they better get into the high 40s. You won't see a lot of defense. And if you do see a lot of defense, it might be a blowout. That's what I'm a little concerned about there. But my memory's slipping. It didn't just start, by the way, Teller. What over what? Because I should have gone off the air at 10:30? Or is it because I don't know what. I was watching on the computer and I forgot my phone at work. Oh, I see. You forgot your phone at work. So you can't comment on the computer, Rick? Not that I'm chastising you, just. So anyway, look at as far as the final, I'll give you the final for me. Georgia 45, TCU 38. There's my final. Kenny, Georgia will get Georgia. We'll get drafted and we'll be good pro. Georgia who? Georgia? Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. Tie for Georgia is the best I've seen in a while. Also, tight end. Sorry, that was my fault. I couldn't read that part. I don't know who you're talking about with the first one, though. You talking about Stetson Bennett? I don't know that Stetson Bennett will get drafted, to be honest with you. If he does, it's going to be late. And I'll tell you what, after watching Brock Purdy this year, who I thought was a fine college quarterback, never thought he would be able to, especially this rookie year, be able to come in off the bench and be able to actually not hurt his team, but help his team win games. So Sonny through the kitchen sink. Does he have another? That's a big question, right? Here's the thing. Sonny Dykes isn't afraid to do anything at any time. That's what makes it this kind of a wild card, right? You won't see him play things tight to the vest, most likely. That's why I think this will be a high-scoring game. And that type of thinking gives TCU a chance. And if Duggan plays his best game of his career, or they find a way to run the football, if Miller's healthy enough, and even if he is healthy, it's doubtful they can run the football that well. TCU will have a chance. I think Georgia's too good. So I probably will bet TCU. I probably will root for TCU. I really think Georgia's probably going to win this game. Bauer, tight end. You know, it's funny. He didn't get involved a lot in the semifinal till like the first half. The first three quarters, it felt, maybe it wasn't that long, but it felt like the first three quarters he wasn't that involved in his game. And then he took it over for a long stretch, he and Bennett, which really helped Georgia get back in this game. Very good player. And if that's who you're talking about, Kenny, oh, you're talking about the quarterback. I see it now. Leave my buddy Rick alone. You're picking on the wrong team. I'm not picking on Georgia. I haven't really picked on Georgia here. I think I've given Georgia quite high praise. I've told you that they're the new Alabama. That they're the model for college football teams. And you are talking about Stetson Bennett. Look, you know, he'll probably get drafted, Kenny, especially based off of, you know, here's the thing. There's an intangible with Stetson Bennett, right? Pro evaluators fall in love with numbers and whatnot. We talk about it here all the time. There's an intangible to Stetson Bennett that you can't put your finger on. He's a leader and finds a way to win games. Now, I understand he's on Georgia, so he's going to win games just because he's on Georgia. But this is the kind of guy who you never know. Right now, I would tell you that if he gets drafted and he has a career carrying a clipboard, he did pretty good. But circumstances in all of sports and in the NFL, you can't account for circumstances that you hadn't thought about. And you get put into the right situation, and all of a sudden, look at Tom Brady. Look at Brock Purdy, and I'm not comparing the two, by the way. Look at Brock Purdy right now at the moment. Now, maybe the league catches up with Brock Purdy. But remember, he was the last player picked in the draft. So I think Stetson Bennett, you know, if he falls into the right team with the right system, that he could probably play in the league. Do I think he will be a substantial professional player? No. But I think he could have his career as a backup for a while. And if he doesn't get drafted, that doesn't mean he won't be in the league. I mean, a lot of undrafted free agents end up in the league. Bennett is a guy people fight for, and that creates winners. I agree. That's what leaders do, right? They get guys who want to run through a wall for them and play harder for them. This is what I said about Zach Wilson when I said the Jets couldn't put him back in, because at that point, with the things he'd said about not letting the defense down, you couldn't play him again because the guys wouldn't play hard for him. And I think that was proven out, by the way. Through. Yeah, I believe it or not, I told you this the other night, CA, I'm starting to understand your writing because I just read it the way I think and talk. Right. All right, guys. Listen, one other thing. I think Drew's gone, but I'll make this one other comment before we go because it ties into something else I said earlier about abusing women. Okay? Maybe the word I used was too strong, and I'll be getting blocked on Facebook now for using the word, probably, Kenny. But Trevor Bauer's been cut by the Dodgers, and we'll talk about this more when we have more time to talk about baseball. But good riddance to Trevor Bauer. I have no tolerance for anybody who puts his hand on a woman in any way, shape, or form. Chris Beard, the Texas coach in basketball, goodbye. Herman for the Yankees last year, arrested for abusing his wife in his home country. Goodbye. These teams don't get rid of these guys. And this guy in Cleveland, who I will not say his name, goodbye. Trevor Bauer, shouldn't say his name, and I'll probably stop saying it at some point. Goodbye. Keep your hands off women and children, for that matter. You want to fight somebody? Go fight somebody your own size and who can give you a fight back. No respect for anybody who ever does that. I've lost friends. Cut them out of my life. No respect for you if that's what you do. Listen, they take Stetson Bennett with the sixth, in the seventh round or something. I'm all for that. Ball kicker. Kenny, please don't compare him to some of these other, the rest of the criminal element in the NFL. Please. A lot of fun today, Rick. A lot of fun today. I hope you had fun. I did. Not all. Guys, I had a blast today. Let me get some music started so we can start to get out of here. I got to get ready. Going to go up. Not going to Amsterdam today. My boy Mark has got a birthday party. Why do women... I'm sorry, I'm going to offend every woman now. Stop scheduling these things for Sundays. Stop. I got a baptism next week. Patriots will probably be playing 1 o'clock. That'd be my luck. They're playing it all. Anyway, I'll be in the recovery room in East Greenbush today with Linda and Tom Day, who graciously, Buffalo fan Linda, can't wait to root against you, graciously agreed to drive to my area for a change. So thank you for that. I'll be meeting them in an hour or so. We'll be having a blast. And it's about 5 minutes from my home for a change. How about that? Isn't that great? Hope you guys have had fun today. What is that? No, he's not in that area. Too busy this weekend. Sorry, but no worries, CA. You're the man. You're the man. You're all the men. Thanks to you, Rick, Jenny, Alan, Carlos, CA, Anthony. What did I miss? Our new friend from Japan, the Ichiro fan. Don't know who this is. Anybody knows, let me know. I want to invite him to follow the show. I want followers in every country. I don't have anybody in Japan yet. Guys, thanks for being with me today. Have a great, great weekend. Enjoy. I outlasted the music. It'll start up here again in a second. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the football today. There's going to be some fun to be had right through 11 o'clock tonight. See you guys next week. Have a great weekend.